Hey Internet, Brandon here. Thank you for checking out our Learn to Play of Taverns and Dragons. I am sitting in the aftermath of our playthrough, and there were a few rules that we forgot to mention in the Learn to Play or realized were a little different than we thought as we played through. So I just wanted to drop this note and say I'll be at the end of the video to clarify those things. They're nothing major, but some clarifications I want to make. So stick around at the very end of this video and I will clarify a couple rules. See you then. Coming to you live from the Inn of the Blazing Unicorns, this is Optimal Play. I'm Brandon.
I'm Josh.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Christian.
And we are here with a early copy provided by Lord Raccoon Games. Thank you. They provided us this copy of the game, Taverns and Dragons, so that we could do a playthrough video. Whether they like it or not, we're also making a Learn to Play video.
We're learning to play. There's a video camera set up.
Might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. There are lots of channels on YouTube that do great scripted Learn to Play videos with beautiful B-roll. Optimal Play is not one of them. We bring the vibes of just kind of authentic friends at the table to the videos on this channel, and that's going to be the case here, where I am just going to teach you three how to play Taverns and Dragons. You legitimately don't know, and we'll ask any questions you have, etc.
Nice.
Yeah.
Except I'm not a friend. You hired me.
Well, I mean, yeah, paid actors all.
Yeah.
that YouTube ad money, yeah. Really pays
Gotta spend it on something.
pays 4 people's wages, yeah. So yeah, this is, and we can take a look at the board. This is the board in Taverns and Dragons. This is an unnamed city where we are all competing to impress the king when he gets here in 7 days.
We don't know that it's unnamed. We just know that we don't know the name.
Correct. The rulebook did not seem to name it. You know, I didn't think to check the back of the box. Maybe the back of the box has the name of the city. It will remain a mystery. Our inns have names. Like mine is the Thirsty Troll's Den, which is pretty cool.
I operate the Griffin's Nest.
I am the founder and co-owner of the Inn of the Drooling Pig. Yeah. The pig is the other owner.
Sure, and I'm the chef at the Kraken's Galley.
And you better believe that the city may not have a name, but each inn has paragraphs of story, of backstory.
Love lore.
Yeah. So anyway, to win the tavern competition and impress the king, you're going to need the most prestige at the end of the game when the king gets here, which will happen in 7 days, as indicated by this track of, the numbers 1 through 7 with a little king token on it. Mm-hmm. To touch on setup really quick, what we've done before starting this video is we've followed the rules. We've placed the board in the center of the table.
It's very clever.
We've shuffled and made decks of the heroes, and in fact right now we're going to reveal 4 of them, which we can take a closer look at later on, but there are 4 available in this row here. We also have shuffled this deck of recipes, and we'll be revealing just 1 right now, which I will admit I am about 80% sure I understand that correctly. That's the one question I have from reading the English rule book is... Eventually, there will be so many recipes here that they get pushed off the end of this track, but it seems like you just start with 1, and then it's over the course of the game that will grow.
Have you tried the other language?
Yeah.
None of them were provided with my copy of the game, no.
The Swedish one has some really
I was going to say, the French one.
And I do not speak French, unfortunately. There were also 10 different locations included in the game. I picked 4, not at random, but I also looked at the Learn to Play setup and said screw that, so picked 4 locations to put into play in these squares on here. And then we've set up our tavern boards here, which include 5 fun dice in each color, and also we each have these 3 minion meeples, which all start here in the town square. So we can, they would be more space efficient if we stood them up, but they don't play as well on camera that way. So we're laying them down, crowding.
We're all about you, the
viewer. Exactly. You're welcome. Okay, so what we do in this game is we're going to play 7 rounds, 7 days, and each day we're going to start by rolling all of our dice. So you can go ahead and give them a roll. They may look like regular D6s, but they are not. The numbers on these go from 1 to 4. I believe there are 2 1s and 2 2s on each die.
You got plenty of 1s.
That was the case. Sure. That was the case at the single die I looked at. I assume they're all the same, but
stands to reason.
Wild.
Yeah. So these dice you will then keep in front of you, and on each turn you will be placing one of them to take an action. So it's a worker placement game where the dice are your primary workers. You also have these minions that you would think would be your workers,
But they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
No, they do work for you.
Are they
to be
your
clear.
dice?
They're my dice.
They're my pigs.
Yeah, we're gonna roll the minions.
Yeah.
The first player each round will be the person who rolled the lowest total. So that
Yeah,
looks
I
to
got
me
the
like
luck on
Josh with all those ones. So you'll get this token that marks that you're the first player. Also, anybody who rolls a 10 or less total gets a coin from the supply.
Take that.
Otherwise, you don't start with any coins or resources or anything. I am realizing I forgot one last step of setup. We have put the 10 prescribed resources. They're
Ingredients.
Ingredients. Thank you. We're cooking with these into this bag, and we're randomly drawing them out and populating them here. It was, I believe, 4 mushrooms, 3 plants, 2 spices, and 1 dragon egg. So these just. Would you mind filling in the empty spots with no art in them here? So starting with Josh, since he rolled the lowest amount, he is going to take an action by using one of his dice and placing it in one of the several spaces on the board that you place dice, I guess. So the first thing you can do on your turn with your dice is to gain coins up here from the Royal Bank. And the
I see.
coin area up here, there are 3 boxes here that have 3, 2, and 2 coins below them, and also in the kind of little die icon here, they have a number printed. If you have the number on your die that is printed there, you can put it in one of these boxes and take that many coins, or you can put a die in this rightmost box with no number that only gets you 1 coin, but you can do that with any die.
Sure.
These can only be used by 1 player each round also. So the 3 that have a specific requirement, once it's taken for the day. Any number of people can be in the rightmost box, but you can only spend 1 die per day getting money.
Gotcha.
You can also get energy crystals, which I'm realizing are over here on the table. Maybe it would make sense to have here. Excuse me, I said energy crystals, I meant energy gems.
Of course.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah. I was going to get YouTube comments on that one.
Yeah. We all know what a gem looks like, Brandon.
All right. So you can place any die in this box down here as your action to gain that many of these energy gems,
Sure.
which you'll use as a resource for a couple other purposes. So I put a 3 there, I would take 3.
Lovely.
The third thing that you can do is activate one of your minions with a die. So our minions are all starting here in the town square, but our minions are going to, throughout the game, they're going to move clockwise around these spaces you can see here on the board. They, the number of spaces that they move is going to be the die that you spend activating one. And each of your minions can only be activated once per day, so you will take, we can see my board here on the screen. If I take this 2, and I put it here on this middle minion, that's the minion with the helmet and shield.
Green.
The green one? Oh, wait. Do I have 2 boots? I have 2 of them with boots. This appears to be an error in this copy of the game.
Send it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I'll get a Sharpie later and draw a helmet and shield on one of
red
those.
guy.
Yeah, he just needs a helmet and a shield.
That's true.
Easy.
That's true. There is.
Switch colors.
All right, I'm red now.
You're the unicorn's den.
Yes, now I'm the Inn of Blazing Unicorns, which is the most badass one anyway.
Sure.
Okay, so anyway, I would move the meeple with the sword and shield 2 spaces. It has to be exact. You do not have the option to move up to that many spaces. It has to be exact. And then at the start or end of that activation, there's a couple things that you can do. If there are ingredients on the space that you are either leaving, because that's mentioned start or end of the activation, either that you're about to leave when you activate that minion, or that you land on, you can take an ingredient from it. If the ingredient is printed on the board, you just take one from the supply. If it is one of these that we randomly distributed on the board, then you take that token and it's no longer available until they get replenished, which will happen at certain points.
Great. Neat.
The meeples themselves have, you notice that they have different arts. they have different, slightly different abilities based on that. The one on the left is fast because he's wearing boots.
Sure.
Naturally.
So that the booted minion will always move one more space than the value of the die you put on it.
Got it.
That is required that it move one more space. Again, you have no choice of the distance that it moves. The meeple that I moved with the helmet and shield, this one does not take wounds in combat with dragons. None of that have we explained yet. that's
Of course
its ability.
not.
Yeah.
It's got a shield.
Yeah, checks out.
And then this one with the like bushel of spices, I think, on its back. This one has one extra inventory slot. Here on the here on our mat, they will be picking up ingredients, and it'll get put into that specific minion's inventory. So there's no special rules to know about that. There's just simply 3 slots printed there instead of 2.
You're telling me he doesn't have a rocket strapped to his back?
He does not have a rocket strapped to his back. No.
Yet.
Yeah.
You get that upgrade.
Okay, yeah.
You gotta have the Kickstarter stretch goals. Okay, so you can take an ingredient at the start or end, or I guess it doesn't have to be an ingredient. Like printed on this space is you could take a gold coin. It would go into that meeple's inventory. That can only be once per activation that you take the ingredient. Then at the beginning or end of your movement, you can also use the location that you're adjacent to. And so these 2 spaces are considered to be adjacent to this like market location. And these 2 spaces are both adjacent to this dungeon. So from either space, you can take that spot.
Checks out.
And those you can do both if you want. You can use the location, move your spaces, use that location. But they all have costs associated with using them. So you'll be spending those costs. So those locations, for example, this dungeon, that's actually a terrible example. Let's say I was here, because I believe this was the
Remove the booted
alchemist
guy, you would
slab. That's true. The booted guy would have been here. You would pay their cost. In this case, I would need to have a spice ingredient, because that's part of the cost, and an energy gem. These locations don't change unless there are game effects that change them, but each of these kind of 2 opportunities to use these locations can only be used once per day. So you put whatever you pay, you put them on the location to mark that to pay it, but also to mark that it's used, and that'll go to the bank at the end of the day. And then you do whatever the location does. There's more details on those in the rule book, so I won't dwell too long on them, but like the alchemist lab simply gives you 2 coins. Over here, the campfire, it lets you, it makes you roll that meeple's die and move that same meeple again based on what you roll on there. This dungeon's a cool push your luck thing, where if you do this, you get to flip over these tokens that are stacked on it, gaining the reward that's on each one until you hit a wound token, in which case the meeple is wounded and you must stop. Or you could choose to stop at any time. And then this one over here lets you spend gold and get some ingredients. So they're mostly fairly straightforward.
2 questions about these locations.
Yeah.
Is this space also to this?
Yes. So this rightmost one does have 3 adjacent locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
But the town square is not adjacent to this one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
if you were to move this guy 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, could you use this space before and after?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think yes.
Okay.
As long as at the start of that, both of the spots here to pay are available. On our playthrough, before our playthrough, I'll check the rulebook and correct that if it's not correct. But I think you could. So there's a couple other spaces on the board. There is this old grumpy-looking tree. I'm guessing that this has a proper name for this location. I did not learn it.
Sure. Mr. Tree.
When your meeple, so this is a space, you have to count through it.
Okay.
When you land there, or if you just enter it, whenever you pass through, you get to collect one of these reroll tokens. You can hold on to that, and you can use that during any of your turns to choose one of your dice and reroll it.
Just one dice, not the whole.
I believe it's just the
That
one.
makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing that your minion can do is hunt dragons, which we'll get to the dragon in just a second. I'm sorry.
The player aid, visit locations once per location, seems to indicate that you cannot.
Oh,
do the same
thank you.
ones.
Yeah, there are great. The reference cards are quite good for
They do
this
seem
game.
really good, actually.
Visit locations once per location. Yeah, so that addresses your specific situation
It
where you
does.
can
It
start
does.
and end at the same one. That's a shame. Yeah.
So don't do that. I mean, you have control over the dice.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
This makes that not a good
That's
play.
why I rolled these 4 ones intentionally.
Yeah.
Yes. The other space on the board is this town square where we started. When you land there, not when you pass through like the tree, when you land there, that meeple can heal. I mentioned that you can get some wounds. They look like this. The minions don't die or anything, but their inventory is reduced for each wound that they have because it sits on their inventory.
They're clutching bandages.
When you get to the town square, you can heal all your wounds and move all the ingredients that minion is holding to your tavern's inventory, to your tavern's pantry, I should say. And that is when it is then available to prepare recipes, which segues very nicely into the fourth thing you can do with your dice, which is complete a recipe. So there are these recipe cards here. They have great menu-style text on them. Would someone read that one to us?
Aged mountain cheese with earthy flavors of mushrooms.
Exactly.
Yum.
So to prepare that recipe, you would put any die there. Any die is valid, but I'll get to it in a second how it matters. You have to spend exactly the ingredients that are on here. In this case, 1 wild plant, 1 mushroom, and 1 spices. And then you get prestige. So this is the main source of victory points. The number of points you get come from 3 sources. The lion's share of them will be from the card itself. You can see that this one was worth 10. From flipping through the deck, 10 is actually on the low end. They're worth big chunks of points. But then you also get points equal to the value of the die you spent to prepare that dish.
Nice.
And then if you prepared a dish that was on one of these slots at the bottom of the track that have points printed on them, you also get that many points. So if this had actually been here and these would have been filled in by other cards, and I put my 3 here, I would get 10 plus 3 plus 1 is 15 total prestige, and I would move up this track to keep track of my score. So that is the fourth thing that you can do with your dice. We still haven't talked about dragons, which are a big thing, but we'll get to that in just a second. The other thing you can do on your turn is hire heroes. So I had put out this row of heroes here. This doesn't cost a die. You just can do it once on any of your turns. You hire them by spending coins equal to the price in the upper right corner. And then they do a couple things. They are worth prestige at the end of the game. To be honest, I don't remember for sure whether you gain those points when you acquire them or at the end of the game. I'm not sure if there's ways to lose the heroes. But yeah, they're worth some points. They also have an ability on them. You can use that. You bring the hero, put it with your tavern. You can use that ability on any of your turns where it's relevant. This little meeple symbol that you can see here, I don't know how well that plays on camera, but that means that it has to be used on a turn where you activated a minion. You can exhaust the hero to use that ability. They don't ready often. I believe it is just when the king token crosses these beer symbols on the track, which is just before days 3, 5, and 7 they ready.
So we're not going to be using them every round.
No.
At most, if you got one on turn 1, you would get to use it 3 times.
I think as many as 4 times. It could ready 3 times.
Yes, you're right.
Then they have one other feature on them, which is an icon here. This is a once per game benefit that you can get at any point. Some of them are like you get an ingredient that you could use to prepare recipes. I am no expert at this game, but based on what I know, there's no reason not to just do that immediately when you hire the hero. But if there are effects in the game that are like steal ingredients from other players or something with these heroes, like maybe there's a reason to not have it in your pantry. Not sure. These icons have to do with fighting dragons, which we'll look at in...
Well, I would also imagine, depending on which ingredients you have and what the recipes are, you might not want an ingredient at a given moment, right? Like you might want to save it until it's the right time to get it.
Well, there's no capacity in your pantry.
Oh, there isn't?
I don't think. So that wouldn't be an issue that I can think of.
Okay.
When you use the hero's once per game ability, you'll just throw an energy crystal on them to mark that their once per game has been used.
Got it.
So you kind of have 2. It's a little wonky. You have 2 activations to keep track of on there separately, right? Exhausting them for their repeatable ability and putting a crystal on them to mark their once per game ability. Yeah. Neat. So pretty much the other thing going on here is dragons. There will be no dragons on the first day, and then when the king crosses this dragon icon on the day track, by the way, probably the proper way to teach this would be to talk about the end of the day, because that's when the king moves on the track. And this is on the reference card pretty clearly too. You take back your dice, you clear all the tokens and gems that were used to make payments on locations, you add a new recipe to the row, and this is where I think by day 4, then the row will be full of 4 recipes, and beyond that it starts pushing them off when you do that. And then you move the king on this track. There's a few symbols on the track. We talked about the beer that readies your heroes. There are these little sunburst ones. When that happens, you clear any ingredient tokens that were on the board still, and you follow the exact same process at setup and distribute 10 new ones on the empty spaces. So those get replenished twice before days 4 and 6.
New plants are growing.
Yeah. There are these 2 dragon icons where you will add a dragon to the board. If there was already one still alive, that one flies away and a new one replaces it. There is not one to start the game. The last thing are these horseshoes. They're out of frame, but there is an optional event deck module where you, at that time, would flip one of those, and the this is not a typical example. They actually have 2 effects on most of them, like this. When it's this horseshoe pointing up symbol, you resolve the one on the left, which I think is generally something good happens to everyone. And when the horseshoe is pointing down, you'll flip the card and do the one on the right, which is something bad happens to everyone.
Yep.
I believe that these affect everyone, but they do introduce a little bit of unpredictability to having the ingredients you might need at a given time, that kind of thing. It is an optional rule to play with those at all.
I love when bad things happen.
Yeah, who doesn't? Speaking of bad things happening, dragons. So, hidden under our picture-in-picture here, there are 2 that we put here at setup. Dragons. They look like these. So we will have this, I don't know, maybe for our playthrough we'll need to figure out a spot to put this that's not covered, but it would just sit here. When you reveal the dragon, it has an ability that will trigger right away. It's printed under this dragon symbol. This dragon is named the Terror, and it says,
Hell yeah.
Boo! Each player exhausts 1 hero in their tavern.
Sure.
So, yeah, that will happen.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, no!
The other thing you do is put the dragon standee on the table. Again, we're not standing things up, we're laying them flat. I don't remember where it goes. You want to
Sure.
be second in command?
That's what I'm here for.
And look that up?
Yeah, I love looking things up. So when does the dragon come out? When the dragon icon appears?
Yes.
Is when it comes out? Okay.
Yeah. It's part of like the end of the day, so it's probably covered there. So in the meantime, one of the other things that your minions can do on their turn, if they are in a location adjacent to the dragon, is attack the dragon. And the way that works is we roll dice that I should probably have ready.
The dragon tells you where to put it.
It does.
It says it has an A. It says there's a
top
right
it's this this letter C. Okay, these locations are A.
So
B,
it goes
C,
to a
and D,
specific
I think they say
location.
under. Yeah. Okay. So this one is now at the Alchemist Lab. It would be standing. We will lay it down for visibility.
That's cool. The dragon lands at that location.
Yes.
And is ruining that location, or if you prefer, making it much cooler.
Right.
Badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just a shitty kitchen before. Now it's a dragon kitchen.
So you can have your minions, when they start or end their turn adjacent to the dragon's location, you can have them hunt the dragon. When you do that, it doesn't matter which minion it is other than that the armored one doesn't take wounds, but when you do that, you will roll these 3 combat dice, and you'll assign their effects. There are 3 types of attacks that they can be. There are swords, bows, and... Isn't there a third one? Axes. Yes, there we go. Axes. So you will assign them to the symbols on the dragon here, marking those spots with these wound tokens. Those, unless an effect says they go away, those won't go away. So as people work on the dragon and kind of taking their turns, the dragon will probably get defeated as we chip away at it. and the dragon is defeated and removed from the board if all of this stuff is filled. But you can distribute these however you want by kind of assigning the dice to those icons. You must use all your dice.
Sure.
And then you get the rewards that are at the end of the track if you finish the track. And so if I have like 2 axes and assign them both up here, then I would get a dragon meat ingredient and 3 prestige.
That's cool.
It is.
So we're dismembering the dragon.
Yes.
Like, I want to be really clear. We're like butchering it.
Yeah, serving it at our tavern.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
There could be other rewards on here, other dragon eggs or money or something. This one seems to just have meat and points on it.
Just like me.
And the reason it's important that you have to assign all your icons is you might get stuck making progress on this but getting nothing out of it, making it easier for someone else to finish.
Makes sense.
This is also where the combat icons printed on some heroes gets used, where I mentioned these have a once per game benefit of providing a bow symbol or a sword symbol. You can just, when you're using a minion to hunt a dragon, you can just mark that card as using its once per game to also assign that. There might be some other effects as well that get you like tokens that you can spend. I think that some of those come from locations that we're not using, but yeah, so there's a number of reasons that you might also have other sources of those icons than just the dice. The other thing on the dice are this flame symbol. That triggers the dragon's ability here under the flame. For the terror, it says Fear Paralysis. Discard 1 available action die. Your minion suffers 1 wound.
Sure.
I think that generally your minion gets wounded by that effect. But also, there is one other face on here that is a bow and a wound symbol. So that gives you a bow symbol, but also...
And to be clear, if you roll a symbol and that there's nowhere to put that icon, it doesn't do anything, right? Like if we'd filled up his axes and I rolled an axe...
I believe that's the case.
Which would make sense. That makes the once per games more useful.
So and then I touched on this before, but if your minions take wounds, you must place a wound on their track here, which wastes some of their inventory space for ingredients. If they already had an ingredient there, you just have to lose it if they get wounded. So that's pretty bad.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the dragon sits there. Its dragon symbol ability never triggers again. It's only when it enters play. And then
fires whenever someone rolls.
And
so theoretically, we could just avoid the dragon, but there will be recipes that are like you need eggs and meat and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yep. So there will just be 2 of those per game. They were randomly selected at setup from a pool of like 7-ish. So some decent variety there.
Question really quick. Dragon meat goes on the minion that killed it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so it's got to have
it. You might not have killed. You might have just chopped off its wing. And now this minion is dragging its tail. Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah. Cool.
So at the end of 7 days, we will add up our scores, which there's mostly not that much adding up to do. You've been largely tracking it as you went. Again, we'll confirm whether the heroes contribute their points at the end or not. There's also another optional module that I did not set up here that gives you like personal secret goals that are worth some points.
Yeah.
I'm kind of mad.
I feel like you need a good theme for that. And why would I have secret goals? I'm a public man of commerce. Right. I do have a question. At the bottom of my board are these little spaces.
That's a great question. I was just going to touch on that because that is the 3rd of 3 optional rules you can play with, and I was thinking we'd play with that.
Great.
These are a little bit of asymmetry in our taverns. Yeah.
Yes.
So these are these little tracks down here. I think we can see mine. Yeah, like I have an energy gem on my 2nd step and a sword and axe icon on my rightmost step. For every 1 that you roll on a die, you get to advance this track. So it's another reward for doing terribly. You'd be already at the top of yours. And at any time during your turn, although sometimes it needs to be at a relevant time, like if you have combat icons, you can activate your tavern's ability to get any 1 benefit from the track that your token is on or past, and then reset the track.
So it charges up and gets better and better, presumably.
So when I'm in this 3rd space of this track, I could get this energy gem on my turn, resetting it, or I could wait and save to get the combat.
It's like you can theoretically overcharge it and waste that charge a little bit, but if you really wanted that energy gem, it might be worthwhile.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I think we'll play with those.
That. Yeah. Especially because you could just roll really awful.
Right.
Just so bad.
You could.
Yes,
yeah.
you could.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, so
statistically unlikely.
I can't imagine that happening.
It's hard to
At this table.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's cool that it has like 3 pretty lightweight kind of modules that you can mix and match. And I set it up to my preference, which is like, I think events are cool. I think asymmetry is cool. I don't care that much about end game goals, so I left them out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That is Taverns and Dragons. Any questions before we call that a teach?
Looks cute. Let's play.
Are dragons delicious in this world?
We'll find out. I guess we'll see
how many points
we'll see
there are.
whether the recipe descriptions say like you'll have to choke this one down because it's made of dragon.
Disgusting. It's
a
so
tough,
gamey.
tough dragon.
Stringy dragon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I do think that the ingredient looks delicious.
Yeah, but let's see. I
Yeah.
don't want to make any promises we can't commit to.
We'll find out together in our next video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for letting me lecture you for, I don't know, 20 minutes.
That wasn't that bad.
However long that was.
Thank you for teaching me how to cook dragons.
My pleasure,
And dismember
Christian.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I plan to beat you at cooking dragons.
Unlikely. You've taught me all you know.
Thank you.
And more.
And more. It's true. I had to look some stuff up for you.
It's true. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this or didn't, we'd love if you click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. That is the best and only way to support Optimal Play and gets you recommended more of our videos so that you'll know when we do more cool playthroughs or learned plays or even like deep dive discussions of games. With that, we'll be back. If you're watching this on YouTube, the next day our playthrough will be up, so either look for that tomorrow or go find it now, and we'll see how this game plays.
Can't wait.
Let's do it.
See you all then. See you then, and be optimal. Alright, thanks for watching and sticking around to the end of this Learn to Play video of Taverns and Dragons. I'm coming to you again from the aftermath of our playthrough. We had a great time. Just wanted to clarify a couple things. For one, I mentioned, obviously, that you cook recipes from this row here. I forgot to say in the Learn to Play that when you cook one, you immediately replace it, pushing down any above it, draw a new one from the deck. Also, when you kill a dragon, and I mean put the very last point of damage on the entire dragon, slaying it and removing it from the board, you get a trophy. They look like this. They have little magma symbols on them, and they have points on the back. If you're the person to finish off that dragon, then you're going to take one of those trophies. You don't look at it. You don't show it to anyone else. You just score those points at the end of the game. Speaking of endgame, one last aspect of endgame scoring. Actually, there's a couple. One is that you get a point for each ingredient in your pantry. And the other is that you, at the end of the 7th day of the game, you take any ingredients that are in your minions' inventories and move them to your pantry. So you'll get points for them too. Starting. The starting setup. I thought you start with nothing, but we double checked before we got going, and you do start with 1 energy gem and 1 coin. It's not much, but it gets you started. And the last little detail is that reroll token. This little guy. You can spend it to reroll 1 of your action dice, which is what we said, but also when you hunt and roll those black dice, you can also spend it to reroll 1 of those. So just wanted to mention those things. Thank you again for watching. Be optimal.